respect everybody's time. And so congratulations, first of all, for being one of the fastest growing legs of my team. That's huge, huge. That, let's see, 3 of you were in the top 25 for May and June. Fastest growing. Yeah, this team is amazing. So definitely wanted to hop on and just spend some time with you guys and congratulate you for that, and hit any questions you have whatsoever. They can be personal, they can be business, whatever you want to ask. So you want to jump in?
Yes, and I'm recording, so Lindsay, let your mom know that whatever she misses, we got, and Dawn, same for Megan. Okay, so first question, this one is from Heather. She said she would love a quick recovery when people say something sassy about all of the things she's been posting on Facebook, about Plexus, like sort of making fun of her. And she has struggled with feeling like she's annoying her friends because of some of their comments.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I always kind of like, if someone's willing to be vocal about being annoyed, then at least I know where they stand. And at least they're not totally ignoring my business, acting like they know me, they love me, but Plexus never comes up. I think that's way more awkward. So if somebody's at least being vocal, then we can joke back and forth. So I have learned from McKenna, actually, that it always goes better if you keep it lighthearted. It's totally fine to joke with people about if they are saying something sassy. I probably would have to see some specific examples of comments in order to think of like an exact response. But I think just overall, I would say be thankful that they're not just ignoring your business entirely. It means they're watching. It means they're reading your stuff. And it means that somewhere deep down, they're probably intrigued. And typically, if there's a root of annoyance or a seed of bitterness somewhere, it's usually because that person has some areas of their life where they're not satisfied, and they have not taken the steps to improve those areas of their life. It could be financial, it could be health, it could be both. And so they see somebody else improving their life and talking about it, and they get snarky. So it's never, ever, ever an opinion to let sink in and affect the way you act, because it's usually coming from a place of discontent. But I would, if you're going to engage at all, I would keep it lighthearted and joke, and just kind of keep in mind that they are watching. And you can always engage them privately and say, hey, so-and-so, I'm sure your comment was lighthearted. I just want you to know I didn't take any offense. You know, just kind of, does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
What is something that you have been doing with your Plexus business lately that you've seen a lot of success with in terms of growing?
Well, some of the biggest success lately is I have seen is Instagram. I've been in Plexus for 3.5 years. And when I first built to Emerald, which was a 1-year process, and my uplines, same thing. McKenna built to Emerald in a year. Jessica built to Diamond in a year. Tamara built to Diamond in under a year. And so it was kind of a time in the business where things were just booming. And Facebook was a huge source of momentum. And I've seen the industry shift a little bit lately. And there's several. Still just keep it light. Oh, this is mostly face-to-face comments. Okay, do you want to give me an example real quick of what I can come back to what I was saying. I'm trying to think.
She's got sleeping babies. Heather, if you want to type an example in the comments, we could always come back to that.
I can give one example that's worked well for me. So I've gotten to the point where I'm posting so often. And again, this is all good, Heather, because it shows that you're posting often enough that people know where you're coming from. What is all this Plexus junk you keep posting about? So that's interest. Like, I would not be offended by that. Oh, it's a marketing scheme. I would say really, really build your own belief, because when somebody tells me it's a marketing scheme, I just go, oh my goodness, I totally thought the same thing. And I've turned out to be so wrong. This has been such a perfect work from home opportunity. It's been so freeing for our family. And honestly, this is like the business of the future. More and more people are transitioning to working from home. representing a brand that they're passionate about, or, doing something they're passionate about. So I would just say something like, I kind of totally thought the same thing. I was really wrong. Another thing is, if somebody has noticed I've been posting a ton and I hear them say that they have a health struggle or their kid has a health struggle, I acknowledge it. And when I reach out, I say, okay, you know what the crazy plexus lady is going to suggest, but I really think that this could help your kid's eczema. Several of my friends have really seen a lot of change. So I just acknowledge that that's how they feel. Now, if someone's just downright ugly, I have had to learn to bless and release. Like, there have been friendships in my life where the person was just so toxic and so relentless with being mean that I realized this is affecting me and my mindset. And so I had to create boundaries there. So that may be something you need to do too. But if it's lighthearted, what's this plexus junk you keep posting about? You can just laugh and be like, oh my gosh, I totally thought the same thing. I wanted nothing to do with it, but it's shocked me. This is what it's done for my health, or this is, my sponsor, Caitlin, hasn't had an RA flare up. You can kind of just take it that route. Okay, let's go back to what I was saying. Remind me what it was.
What's something you're seeing success with right now in growing your business?
So just that I feel like the industry is always evolving, and I'm somebody who is a little resistant to change. I'm not proud of that, but I struggle to be a lifelong learner. I get comfortable really easily, and I like to stay there. And so I have to constantly remind myself to be looking at the people in the industry who are growing fast and finding out what they're doing. So I would recommend looking at that leaderboard. And if there are names you see on there week after week, I would say go follow them on social media and and go watch trainings if they put trainings up on YouTube. And so a big area that I've started to see a lot of people having success with is doing a lot of their marketing on Instagram. And I don't know who asked this question, but one of the leading ambassadors in our company right now is Trisha Rieger. And she has a level 1 whose name is Marianne Anderson. And they are both breaking records. I have never seen people grow this fast. It's mind-blowing. And they've been sweet enough to do a lot of training videos about what they're doing and what they're doing differently. And another one is Brooke Hemingway, growing very, very fast, and her team duplicates very well. So I watch what they're doing and I try to emulate what they're doing. So specifically Instagram is something I'm seeing a lot of people have success with that I'm trying to dive into better. And we don't have to take the time now to get into those details, but I can definitely point you guys to some of the videos that they have done about that. And then Brooke Hemingway, I'm sure we'll touch on a couple of things I've learned from her in the course of this call. But yeah, some of the things she's doing are very successful.
On the topic of Instagram, I think one of the questions was finding the best Instagram hashtags. And I know you have recently been implementing Instagram way more in your personal business. So, we don't want hashtags that all Plexus people are using or that all network marketers are using. What has been your strategy for finding hashtags that work for you, aren't being used by everybody, and, connect you with good people?
Great question. No one's ever asked me that, but it has been a process. So first off, there's a learning curve, and you're going to initially feel like you're spending way too much time on Instagram trying to figure it all out, but that'll get better as you master it. But I highly recommend narrowing your focus and deciding what is it that I offer this community that's valuable. And you have to remember that Instagram is not quite like Facebook. Facebook is a lot of people that know you, keeping up with your life. Instagram is a lot of strangers who are finding you through mutual interests. So it is not about the home run your kid hit in their baseball game. It is about what you offer them of entertainment and value. So I would narrow your focus and decide what is it that I bring to the table to this group that consists of a lot of strangers that's valuable. And maybe just try to narrow it to 5 things or so. And one of those things can definitely be holistic healing, and gut healing and blood sugar balance, like all of that can kind of be its own thing. But what else? And so for me, what I do a lot of posting about on Instagram is eating disorder recovery, intuitive eating, ketogenic lifestyle, and rest, self-care, some of the things that I've gathered from our involvement with Cedar Rock Ministries. And then, of course, all things Plexus, all the things that Plexus encompasses. And so what I've done is, like, for instance, I'm really drawn to people that post about eating disorder recovery, intuitive eating. So if I click those two hashtags and I look at some popular posts that day, what other hashtags are going along with that? And I'll write those down. And then I know to use them again. Like one time, clicked on an intuitive eating hashtag and I found a couple of great people to follow, and I just looked at all their other hashtags. One of them was nourished and free. One of them was fat fueled female. These are, I'm never going to know what these things are. You definitely want to use a mix. Some of them, some of the hashtags that have a lot of photos in that category that are very popular, and then some that are maybe not quite so popular, maybe like 1,000 photos in that category. They're not like totally random, but they're not so huge that the photo would instantly get lost. So you'll want to use a nice mix of somewhat popular and very popular hashtags. But I would recommend narrowing your focus and your brand, what valuable things you're offering in the Instagram world, and then clicking on some hashtags within that genre, and then writing down some of the ones that other people are using. Does that help? Okay.
Okay. Next question. When it comes to talking with new ambassadors about spreading the word, sharing with their friends about what they're doing, how do you kind of go about that interaction? Lindsay says, I know we've talked about initial posting, and while I've made it a point to do so, few of them want to actually do anything with the business, so it's been really hard for developing seekers.
I saw that question right before I hopped on, so I have a couple thoughts on that. First off, I've noticed a lot of change happen with the people I want to see succeed when I stop being so apologetic. And sometimes you're not outright apologizing, but you're just giving too many disclaimers, or you're giving way too much explanation, or way too much just wondering if you would be interested in trying blah, blah, blah. So I have learned that if I just reach out to Caitlin, my brand new ambassador, like let's say I say, Caitlin, what are you experiencing so far in your products? And she says, well, my knees have not been hurting as much at all this month. And if I come back and say, girl, you need to go live on Facebook and say that. Like, how many people are out there right now with the same problem? And it's lighthearted. So I'm not like pushing her, but I'm not, well, what would you think about maybe making your first post? Things like that. So there's just been a big shift when I have just taken that role of being confident when I suggest that they do that. Another thing I like to do is I might reach out to a new ambassador and say, okay, I would love to see you do XYZ. And that could be whatever it is I want. I mean, I'm all the time trying to analyze, what does so-and-so need to do in order to grow? Like, they may have done that scary thing last week, and now we're kind of back in the comfy zone. So what does that person need to do in order to grow? And then I'll reach out and be like, hey, I would love to see you XYZ. And I don't say it like hey, would you maybe be interested? I don't know. I just say, like, I would love to see you do this. I think it'd be awesome. And I think that it would be a great opportunity for you to grow. So does that help? And then the other thing I was going to say was, one thing I learned from Brooke Hemingway at convention that we discussed in our house was doing a better job on the front end, setting up those expectations. So as soon as you're ready to sign someone up, asking a couple qualifying questions, saying, first off, are you prepared to commit to at least 60 days with these products? Because as we know, this is not a quick fix. Healing can be a long process. And 60 days is what I consider the minimum, because Plexus is willing to pay for all of that. So first off, are you willing to commit to those 60 days? The answer should be yes. And then second off, if you love it, are you willing to share with a couple of friends? Are you willing to tell people about your experience? If they say, no, I really want to keep this to myself, then I'm going to say, okay, well, sounds like you qualify for the preferred customer discount. Let's get you signed up. And if they say, yeah, I'll tell my mom, my sister, my best friend, then I'll say, oh my gosh, great. It sounds like you qualify for the ambassador discount or for the wholesale membership. So let's get you signed up. And then I've got all these other questions written down that are part of that process. So one, being way more confident. Just take ownership of the fact that like God has led this person to your team and entrusted you with the role of helping them break their chains. He has brought them to you and he's entrusted them to you to help lead them toward their freedom. So, I love that. And I feel like it makes it easier for me to go to someone and be like, hey, I think if you did this, it would really grow you. Like, let's go for it. Just way more confident. And then just much better job on the front end with those expectations.
I love that. We've started implementing those questions. And I know Dawn has started to see some success with getting people, answering those questions. And Lindsay also has mentioned she's used that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. What is a great quick way to describe the business side of Plexus without overwhelming somebody? So, you mention it, they say they're interested. What's a good, quick response?
Well, what I'm learning over time is that people's personalities are so different, and what might overwhelm one person does not overwhelm someone else. And it's just really it's a big mistake to assume something's going to be overwhelming when somebody may be ready to run. Like Caitlin's a great example. She went silver like the day she joined. And so if I had been like, oh my gosh, I don't want to overwhelm her, I think I could have really hamstrung her. So I think it's important just to learn how to ask good questions, to be curious. And so that way you can kind of get a sense for where they're coming from, and they may not be easily overwhelmed, So I guess some of the things I like to say, if someone expresses some initial interest in the business, I might say, well, what are some of your goals? Like, how much money would you like to pull in each month? Just to give me an idea, maybe what they'd like that to look like. Or I might say, well, day to day, like, do you see yourself putting in walking effort, jogging effort, sprinting effort? Like, how much time do you have to put in? That's going to give me a little bit of an idea. If they're just asking for like an overview of like, I don't know anything about Plexus. What are the products? What is this business? I love to send the VIP call. Have you guys watched that? Caitlin, have you?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll have to give y'all that. Yeah. We've done a couple, like maybe 3. And what we do is we try to keep it to 1/2 hour, and we do a really good health testimony, a really good product overview, and then a really good financial testimony / explanation of why our opportunity is so unique. So the most recent one was, I think, like Ryan Evans' celiac testimony maybe, and then Justin and Megan Goff sharing their financial story, and Justin sharing why the business is so great. And then I think Megan Edwards did kind of a fitness spin. My personal favorite VIP call is a little longer than 1/2 hour, but you can, of course, watch it on double speed. But it was Ryan's health testimony, my product overview, Jessica, Tamara, and Abby Kappa all doing some of the business presentation. So I think you kind of have to read your prospect, but if they want to know, like, okay, just what's the scoop, I like the VIP call for that. But I do try to get a sense for who they are before I assume. It's just learn, don't assume, don't write people off.
Yeah, I like that. If you could send me that Abby Kappa, Jessica VIP call. I saw the other one you mentioned. Okay. This one was from Heather. She's had a lot of people who show interest. She kind of tells them all about it, and they always get to the cost question, and they always say no. So she's asking kind of what ways you have for working around that, or, kind of answering back to cost objections.
Totally. Well, there's a lot of them. I feel like there's a lot of different skills I've picked up over the years. A lot of people just are not accustomed to investing in their health, but if they were to add up all of the other things they spend money on, you'd find plenty of areas that are, just convenience or just for fun. And, people don't necessarily respond great to being like, well, how much do you spend on vending machines? Well, how much do you spend on Starbucks? So I'm not saying to say that, but you can usually say something like, yeah, before I started my supplements, I definitely did not think I had room in the budget for them. So this is the feel, felt, found method where you can say, yes, I felt that same way. Here's what I found. So I did not think I had room in the budget for them, but when I experienced how much better I felt, it felt totally worth it to me. And it turned out I only had to give up like Starbucks or Mountain Dew in my case, and it more than made room in the budget for my pink drink or for my triplex. So that's one. Another one I recently heard that I thought was great was a lot of people budget every month. And so to say something like, oh, I totally get it, we're budgeting people too, sounds like it might be something you can budget for next month. Do you want me to follow up with you in a few weeks and we can talk about it then? So I liked that. But I think it really comes down to your belief that we have something that really truly is worth every penny. And I really do believe that. And so oftentimes, again, this is like one of those things you'd rather post than tell people, but so often people, they're not willing to invest in preventative care. And what happens is they end up investing in a health crisis, hospital bills, or just a terrible illness and all of the prescriptions and care that come with that. And so it could be something that you build into your posts to create a lot of belief in the value. I've seen a lot of good posts about it, just talking about how prevention is worth, so much more and you're going to spend that money either way. You're going to spend it on healthy habits on the front end, or you're going to spend it on all the care you need from not investing it on the back end. So now the tougher question is, how do you communicate that with people without ruffling their feathers too much? But I think it usually always just comes back to my posture. If somebody says, oh my gosh, I cannot afford that, I usually come back and say, I thought the same thing. We were on a crazy strict budget when I first started, but I made a choice to find room for it. And I started with one product at first, loved it, and knew I wanted to try more. And so that's when I decided to go as an ambassador and get the wholesale prices. And I immediately decided to start sharing. And I had other people in my life who needed health too. And so I was able to cover the cost of my products that first month. So just use it as an opportunity to build belief in the value of preventative investing. It's not something, oh, I know, I'm sorry, it's so expensive, but it's an investment. So building belief in that value of that, and then also just belief in the fact that you can budget for it ahead of time. You can make room for it. And then in time, you can share and you can cover the cost of your products that way. Just having that good posture.
How do you balance everything? Posting, team, current investors, customers, potentials, everything.
Well, for me, it's essential to live by a calendar. And I have yet to discover how to coach my people who are free spirits and who just feel so chained by a calendar. But if you're not that kind of person, then you can take my advice. So what's been really great for me is, rather than just having a to-do list, oh, I need to post, I need to follow up with these people, or, a to-do list ends up just making me anxious. But a calendar where everything has a time and a date, like an appointment, a non-negotiable, then my mind can rest. Like when I'm with my kids, I don't have to be like, oh my gosh, I need to remember that I'm supposed to follow up with so-and-so, because I already know it's on my calendar for 3:00. So I've had to get good at that. So like if I have a conversation with you, Caitlin, and you seem interested in getting started, and I say, okay, well, take a look at this video and let's chat as soon as you watch it. I'm going to immediately go to my calendar, and for the next day, 3:00 when my kids are napping, I'm going to say, follow up with Caitlin Bink if I haven't heard back yet. And just every little thing that normal people would put on a to-do list, I'm going to give it an actual time so that when I'm off duty, my mind is totally free because I don't feel like I'm forgetting things. I know that they have their place set aside. You know, and then it just comes back to how much time can you devote, because you really can't do it all. So you have to determine like what are the top priorities in my life and what are the top priorities in my business, and get them on that calendar. And if you can't fit it all in, then some things have to be, you know, not as important. But that's what helps me.
Yes, I know at one point when I was feeling overwhelmed, you said, what can you cut out? What is not an essential priority?
Oh yeah, that's another thing. If you're struggling all the time with balance, there is a strong likelihood that you are trying to do way, way, way too much. Y'all, there are very few things in my life that are considered priority. I just don't say yes to a lot right now because I have young children, I have a business, and I have a husband in med school. So any other thing, and this is hard for some people, but any other favor people ask me, or some, you know, opportunity to attend a, you know, sweet little event, or I'm just very picky. So I highly recommend, there's a book called Essentialism. If you struggle with all the balance and stuff, I really highly recommend that book.
Yes, that is a great one. Okay, potentially last question, depending on how quickly you answer. What are some great ways that you follow up with people after they say no or kind of dismiss you?
That's a good question. I guess initially, if they say, no, thanks, I'm not interested, one of my favorite things to do is say, well, hey, you know what? It's not for everyone. And sometimes it's just a matter of timing, but either way. And so I always just kind of, sometimes when you put the whatchamacallit, the fishing rod or whatever out, and then you kind of pull it back, like, you know what? It's not for everybody. May not be for you. People are kind of like, what? You know, so I like that. So I'll say, well, you know what? It's not for everybody. It may not be for you, or it may just not be the right timing. There may be a need that arises in your life later on. But either way, I so appreciate your support. And I just want you to know that every time you read a post, every time you engage, like, comment, you're helping me get this message out to people who need it, even if that's not you. So I really appreciate you hearing me out. And I appreciate every bit of ongoing support. So I always say that because I feel like that gets, that builds that firm foundation of trust. And honestly, I just think some of the biggest goal of reaching out is getting them willing to root for you, because the people you reach out to are not that interested, or they would have come to you. Like you're reaching out to people who have not discovered how much they need Plexus yet. So it's totally normal for them to be like, no, thanks, I'm not interested. Like, that's what I expect. You know, I'm always pleasantly surprised when someone's like, yeah, I'm interested. So my goal when I'm reaching out is I want to get this person on my side. I want to get them rooting for me, and I want to get them watching me. So when I say, you know, I appreciate you hearing me out. And, you know, every time you read and like my posts, you're helping me get this message out to others. That means the world to me. So often they start watching my journey a little bit closer, and they start reading my posts. And so that opens up further doors. And then continuing to engage with that person and pour into them as a friend. And sometimes, y'all, I have to be very intentional about that and actually put it on my calendar, you know, about the calendar. Just because it does get so hard to keep track of those people that you're wanting to be intentional about. But that's the caring thing to do, is be intentional about keeping up. So keep engaging. And then if another window opens up where you just reach back out and say, hey, I know that the timing wasn't great before and you did not have an interest in Plexus, but I wondered if the timing might be better now, you know, and you could say, well, we just released a new product that I think is right up your alley. Or I just heard about so-and-so in your family's health issue, and I wanted to share a testimony with you. So there's lots of reasons to bring it back up. But if you've kind of created that like understanding, I guess, ahead of time, that helps.
Yes. Well, I think we got 1 minute to spare, so let's go out another one. But that answered most of them. So thank you very much. I know that this was really helpful.
Well, I mean, it was short and sweet, but I'm just super, super proud of you guys. And I have every confidence that it's going to keep going in this direction. So we can definitely do it again sometime.
Yeah, we'll just have to keep adding people so that we get another Q&A with you.
Yeah, I know, seriously, because I think I'm going to keep this up. Awesome. Is it work asking about the epilepsy group? Okay, McKenna, ask McKenna for any group.
Yeah,
about testimony groups. She's like the encyclopedia of all the testimonies.
Lindsay, I'll follow up with her again. I've asked her several times. I think she just needs to, she's reached out to the admin of that group, and I don't think she's getting a response. So
sometimes
I think
the groups are getting found by compliance. So I think they're not quite as active as they once were.
Yeah.
Have you tried searching? There's a page called Life Changing Plexus Testimonies. Have you tried searching epilepsy in there? Okay.
Yeah. I'll ask McKenna again and see what she thinks.
I have one girl that's on my team, and she's epileptic and just wants to join the group to see like what medication. There's like a specific epilepsy group that has all of their medications and stuff that they've said like this works with plexus stuff, this doesn't. Okay. And so I'm trying to get her added to the group for like 3 months now.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
We'll keep trying.
Yeah, okay. We'll just keep working on it.
Bummer. So sorry. Okay. Well, you guys have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Thanks again for doing this.
Oh, you bet. Good night.
Good night. Guys, I am going to save this recording and I will put it in our like thread so you can send it to like Lindsay, your mom, Megan, whoever. I mean, it doesn't have to just be those people, anybody on your team. Was this helpful? I hope this was helpful.
Yes.
Okay. Dawn, we didn't get to your question about what, I think it was like, what was the leg question? It was like,
oh, what are the leg points and how do you get them? Like the outside leg points.
Yeah, outside leg is just your strongest level 1. So like if you have a leg that is signing anybody, the first person that you have that signs people, they'll become your outside leg, your strongest leg. So like you and Lindsay and my Caitlin account kind of like alternate between being my outside leg. So outside leg, she's having the mom over there. Anyways.
Go.
Oh my gosh. Sorry.
Does that make sense though?
Yes.
So your outside leg is whichever of your level 1s starts working the business. And then when you have several level 1s working the business, it's whichever one is doing the best. All right, ladies. Well, if you had any questions that weren't answered, feel free to ask me in our post thread, and I'll answer them to the best of my abilities. But yeah, I think that was really good. Thanks for signing on.
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Bye, friends.